the football team, it was nice to get together with everybody, and then we got a great game delivered. So, I mean, that's all you could really ask for from it, right?
At quarterback, I'm curious because this is a question we'll dive into deeper on the show. But as a quarterback, do you just watch Patrick Mahomes? And I mean, I don't want to say you marvel like the rest of us, but I mean, he plays your spot, and yet you see what he's been able to do ever since he came into the league, what he did on Sunday. Does it ever cease to amaze you in just how good he is in big moments?
No, it doesn't. And I'm a Brady guy through and through. Like, that was who I, grew up since I was little watching. I can't even remember a time, since Brady's played in the early 2000s. That was right when I was born. I can't remember football without Brady, but I would say the same thing about Brady if he went out and did, what Patrick Mahomes did, is that's just what Brady does. And now we've gotten to the point where that's just what Mahomes does. That's the type of player he is, and he gets it done in those type of situations, and there's really no more explanation needed than that. So as a quarterback sitting there watching, you can just look at the guy and say he finds a way to get the job done every single time.
At the same time, when you watch a guy like Brock Purdy, do you see yourself more in a guy like Purdy than you do Mahomes? You tell me.
Yeah, maybe, just because, I think I'm probably more of a conventional player than unconventional, and I think that Mahomes does some different things that not a lot of quarterbacks can do. So yeah, I see myself in Purdy, but I see a lot of really good things in Purdy too. And then there's certain times where you can just see the discrepancy. Purdy's not going to be Mahomes, and that's okay.
It's true. Game-wise, it was a terrific football game. We talked a lot about it yesterday. I mean, we took a lot of calls from callers yesterday about this. And Adrian, I feel like most of the people that we spoke to all felt the same way. They all felt like San Francisco had their chances. The miscues hurt them. I do still find it hard to believe that the team did not really know what the overtime rules were going to be about for the Super Bowl.
I want to ask you a question about that. Did Kyle Shanahan come out and say anything about that, as far as not like he didn't know?
So what he said was that the coaches knew, but he wasn't aware of the fact that the coaches didn't communicate it to the players.
So he knew what the rules were, though.
He knew what the rules were. The other coaches knew what the postseason overtime rules were. But he just said that, you know what, they didn't realize that they never mentioned the rules to the players.
Wow. That's shocking. Just because, there's a certain level of detail that you go over in certain segments of practice throughout the week. And when you go all the time in the playoffs, that's the type of things that football teams practice. You practice 2-minute drill. You practice certain situations within a 2-minute drill, and then overtime and things like that. Those are the type of things that are practiced. That shocks me that wasn't overly communicated. And if he says he knew the overtime rules, the decision does shock me to take the ball first.
Meanwhile, Chiefs players said that they were discussing back in August the overtime situation and what they would do in a spot like they were in on Sunday. So it's just interesting how you have two exactly opposite sides of this particular discussion. One group was watching the video board and learning the rules on the fly. The others said that not only were they aware, but they were talking about it before the season even started.
Right, and what I saw this morning, I was watching some stuff, and ultimately the decision allowed for Patrick Mahomes to have 4 downs to go down the field on every single set of downs in order to get the job done. Is really what it came down to, and that's not something I ever want to bet on. Is Patrick Mahomes with 4 downs to go?
Now, Shanahan did say today that they were looking into overtime before the playoffs. That was what they said. Now, it is interesting, that the rules, by the way, were from March of 2022. So apparently this was the 3rd season of the new overtime rules. I didn't realize that. I really thought that the touchdown match was a year or 2 old. I didn't realize this was the 3rd year.
So the game between the Chiefs and the Bills that this kind of fostered and came from was 2 years ago or 3 years ago?
3 years ago, I guess now, yeah.
Wow.
It's hard to believe, isn't it?
It is.
So each team gets a possession regardless of what the team with the ball does, unless it's the defensive score. But what's interesting is the Niners haven't been involved in an overtime postseason game in the last 3 years. So for them, they've never had this situation come up until it did on Sunday. So it is interesting. Shanahan said today he had laid out a plan with his staff before the playoffs began. Said he instructed his assistant coaches to let the team know before the overtime period started, but did not feel the need to discuss that plan with his team before that point.
That's shocking to me, just because when you get inside, behind the scenes in the film room and these meeting rooms where you start talking about things, like everything in football is so overly communicated. We talk about it over and over again, and you go through plays and you go through scenarios and what the coach wants you to think and how you should think in certain situations, and all that is only heightened at the next level. I mean, you get behind the scenes and you see all these shows and stuff where players and coaches, specifically quarterbacks and coaches and head coaches, like they're finishing each other's sentences kind of thing, and then to hear something like that, it is quite shocking.
I was going to ask you. I mean, this is that you just finished your second full year at UTEP. You're starting year number 3. So really, this is more for a Dana Dimmel question versus the new staff, because you're just now starting to really digest what Scotty Walden and his staff are going to do. But in the 2 years you were here prior to that, do you felt like you were pretty much in a spot where you had almost every scenario mapped out? There was nothing that you ever felt you never felt unprepared, because you've told us it was one of the most complex offenses you've ever been around, and part of the reason why sometimes get the snap off is sometimes they would get changed at the line of scrimmage, and there were just a lot of things, a lot of intricate pieces with that offense that you had to grasp.
Yes, absolutely. And yes, you're right. This is definitely more of a Dana Dimmel offense kind of question. But I think that definitely, like if that staff was still here going into this year, it would be very different as far as mentality and things going, because through the 2 years that you're here, you spend hours and hours a day going over that. It's just repetition after repetition, and slowly you start to kind of just gel and mesh, and your ways of thought start aligning with the coaching staffs, and then you kind of mesh, and they kind of understand you understand them, and you find that middle ground to where you guys start understanding how each other thinks, and that's kind of how it flows out onto the field. And that's the same thing that happens across all different levels of football. It doesn't matter which, but it's the highest at the NFL, where these coaches and these players and these franchise guys really start to understand each other. I think you saw it best on Hard Knocks with Nathaniel Hackett and Aaron Rodgers. Like, they are really speaking the same language, and the more you go on, the more you get that. So yes, Steve, if Coach Dimmel and his staff would have been here, there would have been a very heightened sense of comfortability with things, and we're, instead of learning something, we're talking about mastering something at that point. But that's just part of the thing of going through football years and years with a coach.
Well, I'll push back just a little bit, Cade, because I can remember one instance in particular. I know that this rule was a recent rule change, 2023. It had it in college football, the consecutive timeout rule. And that happened this year with UTEP football. They called timeout on a consecutive occasion, and that ended up costing them a penalty. So I'm curious, with all these rule changes, how does that trickle down into a situation to where head coaches know this, they're aware of this all the time, and players are aware of this all the time? It doesn't have to be the overtime rule. It could be other rules just like this one.
Right. And I think to best answer your question is, I would argue that the timeout thing was a little bit more impromptu and out of the blue, and maybe just more of a mistake on our part as UTEP football players. Whereas I feel like the overtime rule change for the NFL was much more procedure driven. It was more blatant and kind of out in the open, and it was a big deal. Whereas I feel like it would be easier to kind of mess something up like the timeout rule, where you accidentally get into a situation and your initial reaction is, oh my gosh, timeout, to make sure we don't move back 5 yards or something bad doesn't happen on a play. Whereas overtime rules seem more strategic to me, planned out beforehand and things like that. But you make a good point.
Now, I said really since Sunday, and I said this right when it happened, when I was watching the game, and I've repeated it here on this show and on the FM show as well when I come on that program, that I had no problem with San Francisco getting the ball first in overtime. I know some people feel like, let Mahomes score, then you know exactly what you need to do. You have to score and possibly go for 2 if you want to win the game, or go into double overtime and tie it. My attitude is, with a guy like Purdy, where that the weight of the season will be on his shoulders no matter what, why would you want to give him the even more of a stress, knowing if a team like KC comes down and scores? Give him a chance to come down loose, not as much pressure, try to score first, and then put the pressure on Mahomes, which to me, if we're dealing with Purdy 5 or 6 years in the league, I'd have no problem if they deferred and gave KC the ball. But considering first Super Bowl, who he's going up against, second year in the league, overtime, I thought that actually the right call for San Francisco was to get the ball first so that he could try to go down and score, not wait to see what Kansas City would do. Give me your take on that situation.
Here's my take. My initial take when I was standing there watching it, I was sitting there with Kevin Hurley and Marcus Bellin from the team, and we're kind of talking about it, and some other guys were there too. But it kind of came down to, this is just not a good situation for the San Francisco 49ers. Like, once you get into overtime with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, I just feel like you're already at a huge disadvantage. But I had the same take as you at the very beginning. I thought, you know what? They trust their defense. They're going to go down. I don't like as much the idea of having Purdy have the weight of the season to go drive down, make these plays at the end of the game, as opposed to the mentality of getting the ball first, running the system, right? Having a true offense with as much time as you need to go down and execute how they have all season. That was my first initial reaction. And then in hindsight, obviously, it's easy to be a Monday morning quarterback and say, well, you should have done this, and that. But I think going back, I think I would have gone on defense first, simply because you want to be able to control your own narrative as much as you possibly can. And I think the best way to do that was to go on defense, simply because if Patrick Mahomes goes down and they get a third down, then at least they're in the predicament of having to kick a field goal or not. And it's the whole reason to take defense is to know what you need to do. And I think that's what the 49ers should have done. That way they have the options. They can pull out all the tricks in their tool bag. The third down that was in the red zone for the 49ers, they ran a similar play that we had last year. It was called Blade. And it was basically a stop pivot route. I think they ran to Juwan Jennings, and then it was incomplete, but Brandon Ayuk was wide open on the post backside. Things like that happen down in the red zone. I mean, it's tight quarters. There's blitzes going on. Sometimes you don't have time for that kind of stuff. If you have another fourth down play to run right there because you have to go score a touchdown, I really do like the 49ers odds. And I think that at the end of the day, it was kind of a coin flip. They chose the wrong thing, in my opinion, and it came back to bite them.
Yeah, it did. All right, we got a lot more to talk about here with Cade, so if you want to get into the show, we've got lines available right now, 505-6009. Just getting going on a Tuesday. Let's go to Charlie 1, get our first traffic update of the afternoon. Back here on Sports Talk, 20 past the hour right now. 505-6009, our telephone number. That's 505-6009. Get you right on in and through to the program. Looking at some of the messages coming in on social, Twitter and X. Esteban, Steve, you missed my point yesterday, so allow me to elucidate. Oh, wow, big words from Esteban.
Wow.
Big word. I like that. At the most fundamental level, all quarterbacks are game managers. Then there's the exceptional ones that go above and beyond. This was in response to his message on yesterday's show, and yesterday's show was, all quarterbacks are game managers by default. Last night, Mahomes did a good job managing the game. That was because we were talking about how I thought Purdy is more of a game manager than Mahomes, and what Esteban is saying is that all quarterbacks are game managers, but some just go above and beyond that role to doing what guys like Mahomes can do. And,
I agree with this to a certain extent, and it's more really what it comes down to is yes, all quarterbacks in the NFL are game managers, and that is the job. That is literally the job of a quarterback, is to be an elite game manager. Can you make sure that 11 guys are on the same exact page doing not just what they're supposed to do, but the right thing that's going to work against the defense, and making sure that everybody has everything squared away while understanding what the 11 guys in front of you that are trying to stop you from doing that, what everybody's doing. What he's saying, and I've had conversations with people about this before too, is when he's talking about the above and beyond, really what people talk about now is just playmaking, athletic ability and playmaking, whether that's arm talent, whether that's speed, whether that's extending plays and things like that. That's kind of what people are getting at, where every quarterback in the NFL manages the game and makes sure that everybody is on the same page. But the people that are able to do the extraordinary things, that's where they talk about above and beyond. The question that I raise is I think Brady had an exceptional arm. I think that people, they don't talk about him like they do Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes as far as arm strength or Justin Herbert, things like that. But I think that Brady had an exceptional arm and was obviously wonderful at putting the ball in places. But was Brady just a game manager?
No,
because he wasn't. Because he wasn't athletic, right?
Trent Dilfer was a game manager when he won the Super Bowl for Baltimore. That to me is what it is. It's when you go out there, you don't do anything spectacular, but you don't screw up either. you run the offense well, you get up and down the field, you make the plays when you need to, but you're not shining where you're doing something that will, necessarily win you a game, so to speak.
I agree with that 100%. And I don't think that Brady was just a game manager just because he's not athletic, you know what I mean? But by like today's terms, a lot of people say, well, like Lamar Jackson is not a game manager, people are going to say, because he can extend plays and run around and do things like that, even though he still manages the game, very well. And that's what led to him having an MVP season. And so, people, that's why I bring it back to the Brady thing, because people are like, well, he's not a game manager. Well, by your guys' terms, sometimes he is, just because he's not athletic. But I think that's kind of where people get it twisted. But yes, I do agree with his tweet there.
Well, I mean, look, Montana wasn't a game manager. He made big play after big play, and that's why he won all the Super Bowls with San Francisco. Purdy on Sunday, though, I thought he was more of a game manager because he threw for one touchdown pass, did not throw any interceptions, didn't really scramble much at all in that game. Didn't take a ton of sacks either, but it was almost like he did everything he needed to, but you never really felt like Purdy went above and beyond on Sunday, whereas Mahomes just took it upon himself to make sure that Kansas City was able to win that football game. He does those things. That's what he's able to do as a QB.
My fear for a guy like Brock Purdy is, in terms of perception, is like, what is he going to have to do in order to like escape the title of game manager? Because, what's it going to take him going 40 for 40 with 400 yards and then that's not going to happen with the 49ers because of the type of offense they run. Like, that's not the answer. And so everyone wants to put the negative stigma on game manager, but I would argue that in a team like the 49ers, the most elite game manager would actually be better. I would even go as far as to say as like having somebody like Lamar Jackson in the 49ers offense might not be the best answer for that offense, because that's not what that offense needs. That offense needs a point guard to get the ball to Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, Kyle Juszczyk, and George Kittle. You know what I mean?
I do.
So that's kind of where I stand. Like, I think that Brock Purdy fits the 49ers great, and as long as he continues to make great plays and then builds on his resume, and as he gets more mature as a quarterback, he's going to be just fine there.
His regular season stats were not game manager-like. They were terrific. He was 5th in the league in yards, 3rd in touchdowns, 1st in QBR. I mean, those are elite numbers. 31 to 11 touchdown interceptions. That's a 3-to-1 ratio. You'll take that. You know this very well here at UTEP. You will take a 3-to-1 touchdown interception rate any day of the week.
Absolutely. And you know what stat matters for quarterbacks the most? Wins and losses. That's a quarterback stat right there, and Brock Purdy's done a great job of winning with this team. I don't care who's around him or who's calling plays or who's the head coach. If you can go out there and execute and get the job done, you're doing good enough in the NFL.
He also completes at a 70% clip, which to me is huge. Anytime you're in the high 60s to low 70s, those are elite numbers. So think about it. 7 out of 10 completions, 4,280 yards, 31 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. He was sacked 28 times in 16 games, so he sacked less than 2 times per game. I mean, those are all numbers that make you feel like Brock Purdy can be leading this 49ers team for years.
100%. And this comment doesn't take anything away from what you just said, because I think that he can lead this 49ers team for a long time to come. But the only thing that he was missing, and it was apparent in that Super Bowl, and obviously it's a juxtaposition when you put it up next to Patrick Mahomes, but it's just that little X factor of you can't explain it and you can't define it and there's not a number to prove it, but being able to get the job done in those moments where it comes down to crunch time. On that play where it was 3rd and goal and they ran that play where they had Brandon Ayuk with the post and then they had that blade route, ran the stop and go on the corner right there. Like, those are the type of plays where in the clutch, can you get it done or can you not? And sometimes that just comes with experience.
You said something really interesting, though. In the last segment, you said that when that overtime started, the 49ers were already in the hole. Like, you felt like KC was going to win that game once overtime began. Now, maybe in a couple of years, you won't feel that way with Purdy at quarterback. But the problem is right now in 2024, Brock Purdy against Patrick Mahomes there is still a large discrepancy when the game and the season is on the line.
There is, and I think there's a large discrepancy between Patrick Mahomes and every other quarterback in the NFL right now. I don't care who you put up next to him. There's a certain level of excellence and performance that's coming out on the field where when you went into overtime and Patrick Mahomes was leading the Chiefs and I knew that Andy Reid was back there, the play that did it for me, Steve, was this. It was on the drive that KC went to go score to win, but it was the 4th and 1, remember, and they went for it. They ran a play action where they faked it to Pacheco going to the left. They kind of rolled out, and Patrick ended up running for like 8 yards for the first down, easy. But it was just one of those where it was like 4th and 1, huge play. Here comes the game right here, and it was effortless. It was like we know exactly what play we want to get to. We're going to roll out. We're going to give Patrick every option. We're going to give him a corner route, a flat route, and an option to run, and there just wasn't any stopping it. And that was when it was like, listen, you don't want to go against the Chiefs right now in overtime because if you have to bet on stopping them, it's not going to go your way.
He threw one awful pass in that game, which was picked. But other than that, he just doesn't make a lot of mistakes.
That's the whole idea of quarterback, and that's why I think that Brock Purdy's done so good this year because he hasn't made a lot of mistakes. The fewer mistakes you make as a quarterback, the better off your team's going to be. Completions win games, protect the football, don't turn the ball over. That's all the things you hear all the time, and Patrick Mahomes does it better than anybody right now.
28 past as we continue here on Sports Talk. Let's get back to the phones. Pinky is going to join us next on the lines. Hi, Pinky. Welcome to the program.
Hey, good afternoon. Great listening to you guys. I like I always do every day. Hey, you guys stole a little bit of my thunder right now. Don't you think that the play calling from the bench also comes down to the ability of the quarterback, where they don't want to make him make decisions to where he forces a play when he throws the ball or whatever. That's my point of view. That's what I saw all year long was they were calling plays to where they used his ability to the max, where he didn't have to really scramble. And when he did really good scramble about Purdy. But I'm talking about him. But there's other quarterbacks that played to the ability of their team, like Kitna. When he was with Baltimore, he was not a great quarterback, but he played within himself and within the team. And, of course, having a great defense helps.
Let's talk about that for a second. That's a good point, Pinky. Let's get thoughts on playing within your comfort zone and not trying to make you into somebody you're not.
I think that more comes not from play calling, but that comes as an understanding for yourself. Like for me, I pride myself on, okay, can you go run and get the job done when you need to use your feet? Yes. And do you need to force and try to extend and be Johnny Manziel? No, that's not going to work for you. You have to understand who you are as a quarterback. I don't think that comes from play calling, which was, I think, what Pinky was trying to get at is like coaches are calling plays in order to kind of be safe to like cater to their quarterback. I don't think that happens as much because from all my years of playing football, you can't script how a scramble is going to happen. You don't know what the D-line's going to do, how they're going to twist or stunt and do all these type of things. Like a scramble is a very sixth sense feel thing of how can I extend the play. Coaches are always trying to draw up the best play that's going to get executed. I guarantee if you go ask Patrick Mahomes, would you rather drop back, go 1, 2, 3, and put the ball up for Tyreek Hill 2 years ago, or would you rather scramble around for 6 seconds and then find Kelsey, wide open for 30 yards down the field? And every single quarterback's going to say, I'd rather have the perfect coverage and go put it up for somebody in the play drawn how I know. So that's kind of my take on it. I don't think it's more of play calling. I think it's more of understanding who you are as a quarterback.
Good job, Pinky.
Oh, man.
What's wrong, Pinky? What do you mean, oh, man?
I was gonna say, everybody, if you played quarterback like some of us did, they use you to your capability more than anything else, and that's what I my job was to turn around, hand the ball off, and throw a pass maybe once every 10, 15 plays to. Well,
hang on. Maybe you had very limited skills when you quarterbacked Socorro back in the day, and you didn't have the opportunity to really open it up and throw the ball all over the place.
Well, it wasn't limited skill. It was limited personnel.
Ah, okay. So, in other words, it wasn't on you. It was on your surrounding. You're telling me it's all about your surrounding cast, your teammates.
Well, that has a lot to do with it, and I'm not going to put none of my teammates down because there was awesome teammates, and we grew up together all through our careers in school. So, we knew each other really good, but sometimes you just play to where you're trying to use the talent that you have the most, and if it's a running game, you use the running game. Passing game, use the passing game.
Adrian, is Pinky digging himself a hole, or is he? Or what do you think? What do you think he's doing right now?
No, I think we need more player Pinky, thoughts and stuff like that. I think we need to see it through Pinky's eyes a little bit more, and maybe hopefully he played some basketball with Socorro because we got the March Madness NCAA tournament right around the corner.
Yeah, how many sports did you letter in back at Socorro in the '60s? How many sports?
When I went to Isleta, I lettered in basketball and football.
Okay, so you went to Isleta, not Socorro.
And baseball. Football and baseball.
Football and baseball. Okay.
In Isleta.
At Isleta.
And Socorro was football, basketball. Well, we did everything because we were so small. Cross country, track, choir. You got it.
So you did everything, is what you're telling me. So you can speak. You can speak on a lot. That's right. What was your favorite sport? What was your favorite sport to play?
Baseball, and we didn't have it in Socorro at that time because we were too small.
Ah, I got you. Makes sense. All right. Good job, Pinky. Appreciate the call. Excellent. 33 past the hour. We'll get to Orly in a moment, but first, right back to Adrian in this Sports Center update. Keep things moving here. Did you realize that Pinky was like a 5-sport athlete at Isleta and Socorro?
I did not, Steve, but we need to lean on him more for some expertise.
We do. Don't you have a feeling? Don't you feel like Pinky versus Augustine? One's like, they both talk, but Pinky probably has pictures to back it up, and Augustine, we're still waiting for those basketball photos.
Augustine has 0 pictures of him before 20 years old.
I know.
Or before 25 even.
That's true. Let's go to Orly. He joins us next, 35 past. Hey, Orly, what's going on?
Well, my last call for 40 days.
Wait a minute. Tomorrow is the start of it, huh?
Ash Wednesday.
Ash Wednesday. Oh, I don't know if Cade knows this. So let me explain this. During Lent, Orly gives up calling the show until somebody says something that will drive him crazy, which he has broken Lent a couple of times over the years.
Breaking news that he has to go.
Sometimes he will get so outraged, he will break his vow. But for the most part, Orly will give up calling this show for 40 days.
Wow. I mean,
that is a sacrifice.
It would be a sacrifice for me too to not come on the show for 40 days, but I don't know if that would be what I chose to give up. That's a bold move.
Orly, would you ever want to give up? Let me ask you this, Orly, and this is a serious question, okay? Could you ever think of giving up something else besides calling the show for 40 days that would definitely be a good substitution so you could stay close to Sports Talk?
Eating out. Could you give up eating out for 40 days?
Hell no. No way. I couldn't give up going to these new restaurants. Couldn't do that.
Okay.
By the way, did you go to the one I recommended in Vegas?
Unfortunately, we did not have as much time after shows to go places like we wanted to, so we did not get a chance to see that. But that is not going to be my last trip to Las Vegas. I will eventually get there. I promise you that.
Yeah, it's a good restaurant. You'll like it. The rack and lamb is great.
Okay.
Real quick, I've been a 49er fan since John Brody years. You guys weren't even born. I look at Purdy, and the criticism on him, I don't understand it. You get some of these talk shows, and right away, because he's not a number 1 draft pick, he wasn't from a major university. Well, you know what? Neither was Brady. Neither was a lot of these guys. I don't know why the dislike for Purdy is because he is the last pick and no one ever thought he'd go. You look at, there's 3 plays in that game that I think cost the 49ers. I understand taking the ball and should you have taken an overtime kick. You got the muff punt where Ray doesn't jump on it. He jumps out and starts trying to pick it up. They recover. Kansas City doesn't score that touchdown.
Yep.
Prior to that, Kansas City hadn't done anything. They hadn't scored they didn't score a touchdown in regulation without that fumble. It was all field goals. I think the warning. You're 3rd and 4. You get a first down there, you run the clock out. Kansas City had 2 timeouts. You run it down, you go for a winning field goal. I think that was a big play. I don't understand why Shanahan got away from the running in the 3rd quarter. They intercept the ball at the 40. And they 3 straight passes. That's coming from the bench. I just think they would have kept to their ground game. McCaffrey was killing them 4 or 5 yards a pop. And I think those were some of the turning points. Besides the block extra point, he just missed it. Otherwise than that, I think the game could have gone either way. I thought Purdy played a great game. I thought not a great game, but he was a good game. He didn't lose it for them.
Good enough to win. Good enough to win.
Good enough to win. Yeah. And this guy Dan that calls in yesterday, saying, "Oh, he's not a good quarterback. He's not a franchise. He is a franchise quarterback." But I consider Dan though because he was a Cowboys fan. Now he's a Texans fan. Let me ask you, Steve, just because something happens on your team, you're going to drop the Jets?
Please.
You'll always be a Jets fan.
Can I explain to you this? Do you realize how many opportunities over the last 30 years the Jets have given me to drop them as a franchise?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, every year it's the same thing. Sure. Well, no. The 49ers, listen, how many Super Bowls have the 49ers won?
We won 5.
All right, the Jets have won 1. And it was before I was born. And you were still a kid. So, point is, yes, Orly, it is true. It is very true. By the way,
you don't give up on a team just because they're not winning all of a sudden.
That is
I don't
true.
like what they did to Tom Landry. I didn't like Kaepernick, but I stuck with the 49ers.
Hey, now that you're giving up calling sports talk for the next 40 days, will you at least continue to call into minor talk after UTEP games?
You know what?
Different show, Orly, different shows. You can
still a talking show.
Doesn't matter, Orly.
I get too frustrated on
Orly,
that show.
Orly, there's a difference.
You get an apologist.
No,
you get an apologist on that show.
You do. That's why you got to call. That's why you got to call into that show, Orly. You got to get heated and do it. Listen, I am promising you right now, God will not be mad at you if you decide to call into minor talk and not sports talk. You will be, Orly, you'll be forgiven. You will be forgiven. All right?
Well, I'm going to keep my 40 days. I've got to listen to the talk shows. I know there's going to be a couple out there plotting to get me to call.
Please. My listeners are going to try to bait you every day for the next 40 days. You should know better than particular.
I've been doing this since you started.
I know.
And I've been a loyal caller, and I'll just hold, they can hold back until after Lent. I mean, I'm also giving up, as a diabetic, I can get away with eating meat, but I still don't eat meat on Fridays. I try to be a good Catholic. I don't know how good that is. But anyway, guys, have a great 40 days. And let's remember, there's nothing finer than a minor and a 49er.
Thank you for the phone call. There he is, Orly.
I want to touch on one thing that he said. It was at the very beginning, and it got me going, thinking in my head. But he said, I don't understand.
Please, because look at Adrian. Adrian can't even.
I can't take it. He threw the kitchen sink on that phone call.
He did. Adrian can't even look after that call, all right? I mean, that's what it comes down to. Adrian's holding his head at the end of that phone call.
You got to sift through it.
Yeah, that was rough.
But wait, can we touch on one topic that he mentioned at the beginning? And he said he doesn't understand all the Brock Purdy down talk. Like, he doesn't understand all the Brock Purdy hate. I want to ask you guys, go give me your top 3 or 4 quarterbacks in the NFL this past year as far as in terms of talent. Who are the 4 quarterbacks that come to your guys' mind?
All right, let's do this. I've got to take a break. Let's save it. This is a great conversation coming off the break.
Okay, perfect.
We'll do it next. Stay with us. Sports Talk continues. Along with Adrian Broadus, Cade McConnell, Steve Kaplowitz with you right here, 600 ESPN El Paso. All right, 9 in front of 5 as we continue here on the show. Daniel's been waiting, so I want to get to Daniel, but I also want to address that question that right when the break hit that Cade had for us about our 4 best quarterbacks from this season. So we'll do it right after Daniel. Daniel, go ahead. You're up next. How are you?
I'm doing good. Good New Year. How about you guys over there?
Happy New Year, Daniel. Doing good, man. Thank you. February 13th, Happy New Year. I love it, man. You're my kind of guy. If we're wishing each other Happy New Year on the 13th of a day before Valentine's Day, Daniel, you should just wish us a Happy New Year every time you call. That's good stuff, man. Appreciate that.
Exactly. Anyways, I usually don't call in, but the old guy before me, I didn't catch his name.
Orly, the old guy. Yeah, the one that's given up calling the show for Lent. Yep, that's Orly, the old guy. Yeah.
He needs to start early.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it was killing me. First off, he did try to jump on the ball. He hit the player in front of him's foot, the 49er. I don't remember which player it was. And then let's talk about how Chris McCaffrey fumbles on the first drive down the field, which would have Niners 3-0 or 7-0, depending if they kick a field goal or not.
Yep.
Honestly, I believe the whole game, except for the overtime drive at the very end, the Niners dominated the whole game. That's in my personal opinion. I
thought they dominated the first half, but I felt like they didn't get nearly as many points out of how well they played. They should have been up by probably closer to 2 or 3 touchdowns instead of up by a touchdown.
I agree with you. And people are going to hate me for saying this, but I honestly think Kyle Shanahan needs to get fired. I know people are going to be like 28, 30 teams will take him. He's 0-3 when playing calls or when playing offense in the Super Bowl. He's like the Dak Prescott. He just can't win big games, in my opinion.
Adrian, give me your thoughts on that.
Oh, man. I mean, Kyle Shanahan, it's well documented in the 28-3 collapse against the Patriots. The offense could not put any points in that second half when Brady was mounting that comeback. The 2019 game, they had a lead going into the fourth quarter, couldn't close that out. And then this one, I agree at points they dominated this game, but that defense for the Chiefs to call 49ers absolutely dominating, that's not the case. That defense for the Chiefs really stepped up in the end.
Yeah,
I agree with you on that one. Like I said, I mean, it's like no one remembers who stepped on the moon second. Everybody remembers the first guy that stepped on the moon. But I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to go to Super Bowl 10 Super Bowls in a row and lose every single one. I'd rather go one time in 18 years and win once.
I understand. I mean, that's fair. That's and there's nothing wrong with that. So I get that. I do.
But yeah, that's all I have, guys. Thank you.
Appreciate the call. All right. Sometimes all it takes is winning one. Ask Joe Namath. His one Super Bowl made him a legend. A legend. So, but you know what's interesting? We've had a lot of Namath calls about like him over the years, and I'll get to him later in the 5 o'clock hour. But you said 4 best quarterbacks in the NFL this season, right?
Correct.
Lamar Jackson will be one.
Okay.
You got to put, let me think who else. I probably would still put Josh Allen, too.
Okay.
3, let's see. Oh, man, Mahomes had a very ordinary year this year. He really did not have a great. He had a down year for his standards.
Right, but like, do you think he's one of the
top 3? Of course.
Okay,
of course.
So there's 3,
and then 4th this season. Let me think for a second on that one. Adrian, you have a 4th?
Yeah, I'll go with my top 4. I mean, this is just like my top 5 like right now. And the number 5 player always rotates. But number 1 is Mahomes. Number 2 is Allen. 3 is going to be Burrow. And then 4 is Lamar.
Okay, and here's
I just didn't think Burrow played enough this year. That was my problem with because you said 2024. I didn't see it. But Burrow was hurt half the year.
The point in asking that question was 3 out of the 4 names there, right, are Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and Lamar Jackson. What do they all have in common? Athletic ability, extended play, like the wow factor, like what's fun to watch, what's different because, you know, for such a long time in football, like those type of quarterbacks didn't exist, at least not as frequently as they do now. They're exciting to watch, and that's just how it is. And we were getting back to Orly's point, like he was saying, I don't understand, you know, the Purdy hate or the down talk. Well, the reason is because he doesn't fit the mold of those guys that we just said. You guys just named the 4 top quarterbacks in your mind that are in this National Football League, and for 3 out of the 4, 75% of them had that archetype of a wow factor, that ability to extend plays and that kind of thing, which, I mean, yeah, at times that's amazing. Like there's a reason those guys are the best in the NFL because they can do that, but they don't, you know, other guys who don't have as much, you know, play extendability and things like that, they don't get as much praise and things like that. So that's where the Brock Purdy hate comes from, if Orly's still listening. And that's kind of where I answer his question from right
Okay, fair enough. All right, 1 hour in the books. We got more coming up as Sports Talk continues. Cade's going to be with us for the next 2 hours. Looking forward to that. We'll keep things moving right here. 600 ESPN El Paso. Back here on Sports Talk as we continue. Man, good stuff. Cade McConnell, our spring intern, in with us right now. He's hanging till 7 o'clock. We've got a lot of messages coming in on social. Let's see here. Esteban's been busy today. Steve, you should have chastised Daniel for disrespecting elders. And then he also followed up with regarding Orly and his Lent vow to give up calling into the show for 40 days. I'm going to wait to the last couple of days to bait him. There you go. Well, that's from Esteban.
You know, one time when Rodney Terry announced that he would go over to Texas, orally broke his Lenten promise. I can't recall the other ones, Steve. There have been other ones while I've been on this and a part of this show. But yeah, I guess 40 days. Here we go.
I guess so. Adrian at Enemy Win the number 3. Steve, he says, Purdy won the Lions game with his legs. I forgot about that, but he did. That's right. Because the Lions should have been in this game, but they had a terrible second half. And, yeah, Purdy played a terrific second half in that one.
Yeah, I don't get it twisted for any of the listeners out there. I am not saying that Brock Purdy is not athletic. I'm saying that he's not known for being athletic. That's two different things. I think Brock Purdy's fast. When you've seen him get around the edge, he can get around a linebacker and then go extend to play and turn it in from a 5-yard gain to a 15-yard gain. A lot of what we see Mahomes do and other guys. I'm just saying he's not known for being the guy that uses his legs in order to go and win stuff. But that doesn't mean he's just not capable.
That's true. A lot of messages regarding the news that the Giants denied the Cowboys' request for permission to meet with their defensive line coach, Andre Patterson, who was a defensive line coach, a co-defensive coordinator in Minnesota under Mike Zimmer. That was the Adam Schefter report, and Adrian had that about an hour ago. John Saldivar, isn't it ironic that UTEP has had talented coaches but were unable to yield long-term, decades-long success for the program? Such a shame. Now realize this. Andy Reid spent 2 years here. That was it. 2 seasons with Bob Stoll before he moved on to Missouri with the rest of that staff. As far as Andre Patterson, you know what? He parlayed UTEP into a very successful career in the NFL, but not everybody's able to do that. Adrian, Andre Patterson, again, when you're a DC at UTEP versus being a line coach and a co-defensive coordinator in the NFL, it's apples and oranges. You can't compare the two.
Yeah, you can't compare it, right? I mean, what do you want? Do you want them to promote Andre Patterson to head coach and so he could have success here at UTEP? And then what do you want, from these assistant coaches who have no ties to the university other than the coach who hired them? Which, by the way, give credit to Mike Price because he's the one who hired Patterson. He's the one who had him on staff. And look at the other. He has a great coaching tree, by the way. Mike Price. You think about Jeremy Springer, who's now headed off to the New England Patriots as an assistant special teams coordinator over there. I mean, he's got a great lineage, and that's just obviously one, but he's got a great lineage of players who've gone off and done great things, or coordinators who worked under him at UTEP and done great things.
That's true. That is true. Noah at the Noah_G says, after seeing the Patterson news, I'd love for the Cowboys to go after Robert Rodriguez now. He also worked under Zimmer in Minnesota. That's another good name.
Yeah, interesting. Also, Robert Rodriguez, currently outside linebackers coach for the Cardinals. So not sure if he needs a job or if the Cowboys can pry him away from there.
That's a good point. All right. Meanwhile, we got more calls coming in. 505-6009. That is our telephone number. By the way, we haven't talked enough about this over the last 2 days, but we need to. UTEP had a big performance Saturday night in the Haskins Center against New Mexico State. I hope you had a chance to, if you weren't there, hear about this, because Cade, that was the best crowd we've seen in the Haskins Center in a long time.
Yes, I was there actually at 5:30. I was handing out shirts to the first 4,000 people that walked in, me and some of the other guys on the football team, and then we were all there to watch the whole game, and it was pretty cool to watch. Great attendance. It was a cool atmosphere. I love going to basketball games. It was my favorite thing in high school. With the whole all the teams would come in the student section, and it felt just like that again with the Haskins Center. Very full, and then we put on a great performance. It was exciting to watch.
Cade, do the fans need to be a little bit louder or a little bit crazier in these games? We get that sometimes on Minor Talk, and I don't see it from that perspective. I'm not in the stands, so I don't really see much of the crowd. But sometimes people say, hey, in crucial moments, there's a lot of people just sitting down. You got to stand up and go crazy.
I agree with that, because that's the kind of fan that I like to be at the games. Sometimes, I will say this, I'm not the guy that's going to stand up probably and go crazy when everybody else is sitting down, admittedly. But I think we need a better student section presence. Like I understand the student section's like kind of stuck, by the band over there behind one of the hoops. But like you watch, some of the big name basketball schools, and that's who you kind of role model as far as student sections go. But like you watch like a Duke game, and there's like everybody like at half court, just filled behind. There are 4 or 5 rows up behind the people that are courtside and whatnot.
That's right.
But like there's a huge, student section presence right there at half court, and they're going crazy. They got the chants going, all that type of stuff. Like I think that's where the cheers come from most, because I'm not expecting like the 50-year-old fathers to stand up and go nuts, but I am expecting 100 football players to. We kind of need that like section of like being able to kind of get rowdy and cheer from there. I don't know, Adrian, did you notice that like a lot of the times like the defense and like some of the chants like we're off, like
they would die,
right?
And then
like,
they would die right away.
But and we're like not in sync. It's like the band's like kind of on one part, like the cheerleaders are looking around like okay, that kind of thing. Like we need to be on the same page here.
That's funny because I thought the game was the loudest I've heard the arena in a long time.
No, it was. Like the energy was good, but I mean like
they just weren't in sync. They're not used to having 10,000 fans, Cade. Let's be honest. They're used to having 4,000 fans.
But let's get used to it, Steve. Let's get used to it, right? Let's get used to 10,000 fans inside the Don Haskins. Let's get used to 45,000 in the Sun Bowl, and let's make that a thing. That is the thing that the community and the city of El Paso has the full power to do. And when you start selling tickets like that, not only is it fun, it only benefits the programs, and like you only get positives from that. Like it only helps everybody to go and pack out those stadiums. And I understand wins do that, good players do that. I totally understand. But for everybody that was there, I get it was New Mexico State. It was a rivalry game, but there's no reason why more games can't be like that and everyone can't go and have fun more often.
Good point. All right, fair point. Let's get back to the phones. Enrique is going to join us next. He joins at 11 past. Hey, Enrique, what's going on?
Hey, Cap. I was just telling Adrian, congratulations again on a stellar performance for the both of you at Vegas.
Oh, thank you, Enrique. I hope you enjoyed the shows last week.
I did. I really liked the Andy Reid segment. That was really cool.
Oh, thank you. That was fun. That was on media night, Monday night. And I don't think people have any idea how difficult it is to try and get into the center of that podium area and throw one-on-one questions at these guys. Adrian did it with Mahomes. I did it with Andy Reid. And it was it's just something that you're dealing with like hundreds in each area. I'm happy we got our questions off and had them answered. Let's just put it that way.
It was a lot of fun to see, guys.
Good.
You guys, again, great job. Real quick, before I get into my Brock Purdy segment, I want to tell you real quick that I don't know if you saw the article. UTEP is actually ranked first in Conference USA by 24/7 Sports for recruiting.
I did. I think that's amazing.
Huge.
And Rivals, by the way. And Rivals. So they're number one at Rivals, number one at 247. That's never happened before. That's big news.
Big. I don't know. We need to be covered more. I told you before, super excited for UTEP football. But going into Purdy, I think Purdy's been getting a little bit of a bad rap. This is his first Super Bowl. Last year was kind of a bad year for him. He got hurt, but I think we just got to lay off on him a little bit. I get it. There was a lot of mistakes made, but that's not all on him. He can't coach the team either. Yeah, he should be a general on the field, but a lot of those decisions came from above. I think the only thing that's going to make the 49ers a little bit harder to make it back to the promised land of the Super Bowl is just the cap. All these players are going to have to get paid more money. It's going to get more expensive to bring these teams back. And that goes back to what I was talking to you about before you guys left to Vegas, is that I'm tired of everyone trying to compare, like, Mahomes to Brady, and now we're trying to compare Purdy to Mahomes. Purdy's is his own quarterback. I think he's coming into his own, but if anything, Mahomes really cemented his legacy.
He did. There's nobody's arguing that. I think we've talked about that. And 3 Super Bowls in 5 years, and he's 28 years old. I can't wait to see what he does over the next 10 years of his career. It's going to be fascinating.
I mean, I hope I'm thinking another 2 years, another 2 Super Bowls in the next 3 years, at least.
You know what? Don't be surprised. They got a terrific team. They're not breaking up the party right now. They could easily go back to that game again next year.
I believe it. I'd be cool to see. First team to go 3 times. But I just think we got to give a little more credit to Purdy. Lay off him a little bit. Like, it's his first rodeo.
No, I think that's fair. Adrian, let's talk about that for a minute. I mean, listen, nobody's saying Purdy did a bad job. He played well on Sunday. He really did. And considering where he was 2 years ago to where he is right now, it's one of the great stories in football.
Yeah, and I think maybe the reason we did get calls yesterday that were saying, "Hey, Purdy's not the guy. You might think I'm crazy, but you're blah blah blah." All that stuff. I watched the postseason. I realized that he is the guy. I maybe have been as bought in as other fans or non-fans of the 49ers, casuals watching the game, but I am bought in now as him being the franchise quarterback for this team moving forward because he does enough and he does a good job. I mean, he does more than enough to earn that job. And another thing is, everybody's talking about this because he went to Iowa State, because he was a 7th-round draft pick, because he was Mr. Irrelevant. If it was Joe Burrow out there who came off the LSU national championship, came off so much success, and then heads to the Super Bowl with the Bengals, no one's going to question him. In fact, you're going to catapult Joe Burrow atop the list of a lot of quarterback rankings. So let's be fair when we talk about these guys.
You want to add to that, Cade?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking I'm thinking of a comparison, like a guy that had a super high completion percentage, and I was just looking at like some of the stats, like from Drew Brees, right? Like Drew Brees, I just picked out a year. This was just spur of the moment, but like in 2018, Drew Brees, right? 74.4% complete, 3,992 yards. It wasn't even one of his best seasons as far as yards go, and that was obviously late in his career as a seasoned veteran who everyone knew was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Mm-hmm. Brock Purdy this past season, 69.4% complete, 4,280 yards. Like, we're talking about really high-level quarterback play. You know, he's not Patrick Mahomes, and no one's saying that, but I agree. Like, he's playing at a really high level, and the Brock Purdy slander definitely needs to take a step back.
Yeah, I mean, it's like video game numbers, really, when you start to think about some of the things that we've seen from Mahomes over the years, which puts him right now. You said it best. We all know Mahomes is number one. Everybody else is behind him. Whether it's Josh Allen, whether it's a healthy Joe Burrow, which, by the way, is Joe Burrow ever going to be healthy again? Or is he going to be one of these guys that has amazing talent? We just never know. You mentioned that top 4 quarterback list, right? Before we went to break, we came back, talked about it last segment. Adrian, you're going to disagree with me, but I'm going to tell you right now, if I go Mahomes, Allen, and then I mentioned as my Lamar Jackson, this past season, you got to put Dak there. Dak had it. He had a top 4, top 5 quarterback regular season. He was terrific during the regular season.
He was. I mean, how could you be wrong?
I'm not saying playoffs.
This goes back to our Dak Prescott top 10 quarterback. Yes, he is. He is a top 10 quarterback by default. He is. So, I mean, how hard is it to argue with you? I think it's hard to argue with you. The only thing that people would go against you and they would say is the playoffs.
Exactly.
And that's not fair because the regular season Dak was on.
I'm not judging him by the playoffs. By the way, Lamar Jackson is 2-5 in the playoffs for his career. So before we start talking about how Dak can't win, Lamar, who's been the MVP of the league, hasn't been able to win. So there's plenty of quarterbacks that have been terrific during the regular season that have not been able to duplicate that once the postseason starts.
But here's the thing, is like when you get into looking at these quarterbacks, like Dak gets a worse rap than Lamar because Dak is not as flashy. He's not as play extendable. He doesn't do those types of things. And so when you start talking about this, with the MVP seasons, Dak gets a lot more hate. And of course, being the Cowboys quarterback.
Bingo.
Right?
You hit on it right there.
That's what it is. It's being the Cowboys quarterback and you're not as flashy and then you miss in the playoffs.
That's right.
That's what's going to get you a worse rap than somebody like Lamar Jackson.
18 past, 505-6009, our telephone number. That's 505-6009. More in a moment, but first, let's go to Charlie 1, get this traffic update. Back here on Sports Talk, 23 now past the hour. 505-6009, our telephone number to get into the show. That's 505-6009. We're still talking a lot of Super Bowl day 3, really, after. I mean, yesterday was the day after. Now we're still doing that and looking forward to getting more of your thoughts on the game and just the future of what's heading. Because remember, now we've got the draft coming up in April. Adrian's planning on joining the Foss and Chris out in Detroit and going to the Motown City. He's got family over there, so you might be a part of the draft come April. And then before you know it, we've also got UFL action. This is important, Cade, because you could have some of your former teammates on the minors playing UFL this upcoming spring.
Yeah, there's a lot of former teammates that I think are going to have a shot to play at one level or another, and I really hope they all get a chance.
I do too. Give me your thoughts on spring ball and the fact that the USFL and the XFL have merged into one league. We talked UFL last week during Super Bowl week at Radio Row, and Russ Brandon joined us. He's the president and CEO of the UFL, and they feel like right now, since there's no more competition, there's no reason why this league shouldn't get a chance to really grow, since they are working with the NFL, being able to test new rules, new little nuances, and really try to get as much support as possible.
I think it's a really good thing, and here's my take on it. I think that true football fans love it. Like, if you really love watching football, the first person that goes to my mind is like my dad. Like, my dad was like, oh my God, football's over now. Like, I'm going to go back and rewatch every UTEP game from this year that he has recorded because he's got nothing better to watch kind of thing. But he loves when this spring football stuff comes on because it's football. It's real. It's still good players going out there. The one thing that everyone's, kind of criticism has been for is, like, they want to see high level of football play. Like, they want to feel like it's just under the NFL level of play. And I think that there's definitely that in the future. Like, if you need to have it seem like you're playing, at least high level college football, guys making plays and doing special things and things that are exciting to watch. But my favorite part about it all is actually like the unique rules because, it's outside the box. Like, you watch football and football is football, but then when there's kind of like that extra added spin on certain things, like, you never know. Like, that could become part of the game one day. It could be more interesting, and I think it's overall really good for the sport.
I wonder how difficult it's going to be for certain players to go through a grueling spring playing football and then possibly 2 or 3 months later going into an NFL training camp, try to make the roster, and just not have any real downtime and just go from one league right to another.
It's a super big concern that I think that a lot of people have, and I think it's a very valid one. A football season puts a lot of wear and tear on a body, and the offseason is something that every single player from, college level all the way through the pros takes the full advantage of an offseason to try to get the body ready to go to do that all over again.
Yeah.
It is possible. It's possible to go out and do it. It's possible to stay healthy. You got to take care of your body, but it's definitely not easy. But I think that's another really cool added thing is, like, everyone's been wanting that league that becomes the feeder league for guys that maybe weren't in the NFL or couldn't make it or got cut or something like that, and then are in that lower division that can be brought up because so many guys kind of fall out or get cut or don't make a camp, and then their career's just over and they kind of wither away because there's no place to continue to foster the skills and to do things and showcase. And then you're just that guy that's, bouncing around from camp to camp, like hopefully trying to have somebody see you. And this is a really good way for real talent to be showcased.
Couldn't agree more. In fact, I'm excited. We talked about expansion with Russ when he joined us and asked about El Paso because they've already got franchises right now in Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio. So why not a fourth? Why not add the Sun Bowl and El Paso to the mix? And maybe as the league starts to grow from 8 teams to potentially 16 or more, El Paso could one day find themselves as an expansion franchise.
I think it'd be great. I think that, the fans of El Paso have always been good at sports games and can really get behind a team when stuff goes well. So I hope that it happens, and down the line, that'd be pretty cool to see.
Adrian, I still believe that that's the kind of league that fans would absolutely support here in El Paso if a franchise was to ever end up in El Paso.
Yeah, and I think the interesting takeaway that I had from our interview with Russ Brandon is it's continuity. It's having season over season, not just a one-off, not just, let's start up the season, get everybody excited, and then shut down because of whatever reason. That obviously deters any kind of momentum. So I think the key is to put out a product, hope people watch it, and then try to run it back again next year. I mean, see how sustainable this really is, because not only are you going out there and paying players, paying these coaches and stuff like that, but you're trying to go out and shop around to different TV networks and get people to buy in with advertising and stuff like that. So there you go.
28 past the hour, 505-6009, our telephone number. We were talking during the break. Cade was asking about our Radio Row segments and how we booked all of our interviews from last week. So interesting because part of them were booked in advance. In fact, we taped a number of them before the show just because there aren't nearly as many people during our broadcast as there are earlier in the day. It's just a fact. 2 years in a row we've seen that.
Right.
But funny enough, like I'll give you Russ Brandon, for example, the UFL guy. We were walking around and we saw UFL individuals doing radio interviews, and Adrian came up and said, hey, we should really think about a UFL segment. It'd be great. So emailed the UFL, the morning on, I think it was Thursday or Friday. And that day, we scheduled the president and CEO of the league to come on with us. We did it that day. And, that's sometimes these things happen. We went to the Bounty paper towel booth to tell them, hey, look, we're going to be next year in New Orleans. We know we missed out on a lot of the interviews this year, which, by the way, a lot of the local stations don't even get offered these interviews. Sometimes it's just national shows and that's it. So we said, can we be, in the mix for next year? And when I was talking to them, they said, well, we still have an opening for Kirk Cousins and KJ Osborne. I said, oh, we'll take it.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
So next thing you know, we're booking Kirk Cousins and KJ Osborne up there, that same afternoon. And that was a lot of fun for us. And really, those are the kind of interviews we love because they're, star player. Like Kirk Cousins is an A-list player, and getting him for 5 to 7 minutes at Radio Row is really what it's all about. So that's the interesting thing. And Adrian was around with Aaron Jones while we were waiting for that interview to happen. And you should hear Adrian share with Cade just what it was like seeing all the attention that Aaron got when he was over at Radio Row.
Yeah, to paint a picture for our listeners right now, it's so easy to recognize Aaron Jones because we've known him since he basically was playing at Burgess High School, and we've been covering him for over a decade now. But it's harder to find and figure out who these under-the-radar guys, even if they're not necessarily under the radar, like Tony Pollard, for example. I'll ask you, Cade, do you know what Tony Pollard looks like?
Yeah, of course I do.
You do. You would be able to pick out Tony Pollard in a crowd.
I would sure hope so, but I'm also a really big football fan, so maybe to the average person he might be tougher, but I would hope that I would be able to do that.
Well, I was not, and I love football, maybe not as much as you, but I love football, and I watch it every week, and I ran past Tony Pollard at least twice, and I didn't even realize it was him until later on. I saw a different picture somebody posted of him, and I was like, wow, that's Tony Pollard. Like, how could I have not have known that's him? And why didn't I not stop him and try to ask him? But, for example, for Aaron Jones, who's very recognizable, his face is very recognizable, everywhere he moves left, there's a TV station with a camera in his face. He moves right, there's a radio guy begging him to come on his show. He moves to his left again, and there's another person requesting just a one-question interview for social media. So he was somebody who was a marquee guy and everybody wanted a piece of. And then, when you throw a guy like Jamal Williams, who was right next to him, who was with him on the Bounty production and all the promotions, not a lot of requests for Jamal Williams.
That's surprising.
It's interesting how some get more attention than others.
I have a question for you, Adrian. Like, do guys look a lot different than they do when, I know you're seeing them with a helmet on TV, but you see them without a helmet too. Like, is it a lot different seeing them in person in the crowd? Are they harder to pick out then?
Yes, because they care about things like fashion, they care about how they look, and they care about their accessories and stuff like that. So you never see that. I mean, you see them pretty much just without their helmet, just without their pads and stuff like that. But at these events, they're coming out with the pink pants. They're coming out with the nice jackets and stuff like that. And it's hard to pick out who they are.
Sauce Gardner had a giant chain that said Sauce that he was wearing.
Hard to miss.
It helps when players give us identifiers like that.
Right. Was Justin Jefferson there?
Yes, he was.
Was
to pick out.
Was he wearing his jet chain? Because I've met Justin Jefferson. I hosted I helped out with his football camp in California. I was one of the coaches at the camp, and he had the giant jet chain on, and I'll never forget that.
So I don't know if he had the chain on. He was in the Sirius booth when I saw him in person, but he had his hair done in a certain way that I had never seen Justin Jefferson do his hair. So, just little things like that. They might have a new hairdo. They might come out to Vegas looking a little extra clean just because this is Vegas. They want to have fun.
I have another question for you guys because, I'm new to the game, right? I haven't gotten to interview people of the stature and the status that you guys have, but like I said, I did the camp with Justin Jefferson. It was really cool. I've grittied with Justin Jefferson. I don't know how many people have actually said that. Like, I've done it with him. There's a photo on my Instagram for all listeners. Go check it out. But
give out your Instagram handle.
It's Cade_McConnell_.
Okay.
So go check it out. There, you got to scroll down a little bit, but it's on there. I am in the gritty with Justin Jefferson. It's pretty cool. But anyway, when you guys are out there, you're surrounded by all these really cool people, and you're getting interviews with higher tier people that maybe you wouldn't get if you were just sitting around in El Paso, but you guys guys are at Radio Row. Like, is it a little surreal, or are you guys just in the mix so much that it's like, this is just what we're doing? Like, this is awesome and super fun, but it's completely normal. Or when you're sitting next to Kirk Cousins and KJ Osborne, you're like, oh my God, I'm interviewing Kirk Cousins and KJ Osborne.
So for me, it's work. It's fun work. I love to interview. That's my favorite part of the job. And getting a chance to talk to people we wouldn't normally get a chance to talk to is great. But I guess maybe because I've been doing this 30 years now, I don't have that feeling of awe like I might have years ago when I was getting into this business.
I understand that. What about you, Adrian?
Okay, so this is a great question because I get asked this a lot, and I'm very honest. I don't get starstruck with players. I get starstruck with the people I listen to or read about, like read on a daily basis, and who I kind of look up to in this business. Like, those are the people I kind of get more starstruck with.
Yeah, I mean, like podcasts, guys from The Ringer. We had some of those guests on, and I could see how much Adrian was really getting into that because, again, the people he listens to. Now, I'll say this. I've interviewed Kevin Harlan before over the phone, never in person. We had him on. He was terrific. All we did was talk broadcasting with Kevin. It was great. So, I mean, that's one of those conversations where we enjoy it because we didn't even talk about the Super Bowl with him. We just talked about his broadcast career and what it's like. And listening to him talk, that was a lot of fun.
Right. I can relate to that in a way. Like, I haven't, gotten to interview anybody big or anything like that, but like, me and Lane have been on here, and Lane's had some cool people come through. We had Garrett Stubbs, an MLB player, talking. I feel like you kind of get into the conversation, and it's fun and it's cool, and you're not like, dismissing the person that's there, but like it kind of becomes just part of the conversation, which I understand. I think that's cool.
All right. 35 past the hour. Adrian, what are we doing? You want to do Sports Center or you want to say hello to Bobby? What do you think?
Let's say hi to Bobby.
All right, let's do it. We'll get our Sports Center top of the hour. We'll do top of the hour Sports Center, and we'll come back and do that here in about 25 minutes. Bobby, what's going on? How are you?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Hey, that was a good game, Of course, the Niners lost. I'm a Niner fan. But you know what? They give them 7 points with that when they hit them in the foot. They were at 18-yard line. They just gave them 7 points right there, basically. They didn't have to drive or nothing, basically.
Bobby, when the overtime started, did you still feel like you had a chance to win the game, or at that point did you feel like KC was going to win it?
I think I've been watching football. I played football. I'm just saying I've been for a long time. I would have given him, with the possession, you defer. So I think they should have, my opinion, as far as, I still think the Niners could have taken it down and they were pretty close to scoring a touchdown. I didn't like that they kind of like stopped running, because this is the way I see it. I don't know about you, but the more you run the ball and you let Mahomes not get the ball, I even told my buddy, if the time of possession goes to them, they're going to win. Because there's no way you got to make first downs. And that's what Kansas City was doing. And, about Purdy, I don't know if you saw, Steve, all the stuff that was going on, like how they were blitzing him. He had 9 blitzes, Steve, in his face. In his face. 9 times, untouched. If you look at it, you can go and Google all this stuff and whatever you got to do. Man, that guy was getting pressured like big time.
Yeah, he was.
I think he actually played a pretty good game and you saw after a while, you saw just Mahomes just having time. It was the offensive line. I mean, they were giving them some time, but they weren't giving them. Once the second half, it looked like it's changed to me a little bit here and there. And the defensive line was playing good at first. The second half, Mahomes had time to throw the ball. Yeah. And then one more last thing, and Purdy has I don't know how many. He's first, second, or third in stats. This guy's 24 years old, been in the league a year and a half. This guy's just getting better, not getting worse. I mean, and then Shanahan has taken this team, the worst team in the league 6 years ago, at 4-12 or 2-something for 2 years, something like that, and they've gone to the championship 4 years in a row. Not too many coaches have done that. You tell me how many. And there's only one that I think that I can know of right now is Reed, which they've gone to the championship game 6 or 7 years in a row. Shanahan's a hell of a coach. He's going to be there for a long time. If you get there, they're going to riot there. The Shanahan's going to stay there for a long time. This team is still going to be good. They have a lot of good players, a first-round pick coming up, a second round, 2/3, and they got 8 picks this year. First round because of Lance. They haven't done it in, 3 years? Second round because of McCaffrey. When they got him, they lost the second-round pick for 2 years in a row. they're still gonna be good, Steve, for a long time.
Appreciate you, Bobby. Give me some thoughts on that one.
Yeah, let's do a little bit of self-reflection for a second, because a lot of this show has been talked about Brock Purdy, Patrick Mahomes, and rightfully so. But for the most part, the consensus on the show so far has been like Brock Purdy has done enough to get this team to a Super Bowl, and he did enough to give them a chance to win multiple times. Were there a few plays? Sure. But for the most part, everything has been, quit the Brock Purdy slander. He did well. He has done well this entire season. Like, are we sitting on the narrative from maybe like earlier on in the season, right? Where Brock Purdy like maybe wasn't enough and there was the doubt, and like we're still kind of hanging on to that as people who talk about sports. Like, is that gone and we're just hanging on to it? Or do you think that there's still plenty of people out there who think that Brock Purdy's not good enough?
Yeah, people called in this show yesterday and they said that he wasn't good enough.
Well, you know what? Jalen Hurts wasn't good enough last year.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of ways you can look at that and spin that. Very few have been good enough to go out and beat Patrick Mahomes. One guy is Tom Brady.
Right? Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that, it's funny that you say that we had a bunch of people calling yesterday and say that Brock Purdy wasn't good enough, because really all we've heard today is that Brock Purdy has done enough, executed well, did his job, and the chips didn't fall his way, and that's what happens when you go against Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. But I think that's an interesting perspective that it seems like we're all kind of in agreement that he's done enough, but maybe there's still a lot of people out there that don't think so.
It's so interesting. You listen to a lot of 49er fans; they're happy to have him. I haven't really heard of any 49er fans feeling like they need more than Brock Purdy. Have you?
No, I haven't, and I think that everybody who's had them on the team thinks that he's up and coming and a phenom, and I couldn't agree more. I'm excited to see where he takes it. I also would like to hear from maybe some people who think that he's not good enough, because everything we've heard today has been positive.
I wonder if Cowboys fans had a choice between Brock Purdy and Dak Prescott, who'd they take?
I hope they say Dak. I know I just talked up Brock Purdy in a positive light for I can't tell you how long, but I would still say Dak. He was so good this year, and who's to you don't know if what Brock Purdy does in a different system, whatever. But
I know, but that was Purdy's first playoff loss. You think about that. He had won his 2 games last year, and then he takes them all the way to the Super Bowl this year. Cowboys fans would kill to have one season with Dak Prescott doing that for them.
It's a great point. And as tough as it is to put down in the books as a valid stat, playoff success is huge. A massive quarterback stat.
It is. We'll come back with Cruz, wrap up hour 2 of 3. Stay with us. Sports Talk continues. 600 ESPN El Paso. Sports Talk. We haven't talked about the halftime show. Do we like Usher on Sunday?
I did. Adrian, I don't know about you, but I enjoyed it. I thought that it was good. There's always going to be people that are critics and say it wasn't good and this, that, whatever. I didn't like the opening song. I wanted something a little bit more, I didn't recognize the opening song, but overall, I thought the performance was good. Adrian?
I was laughing because when we were in Vegas, everybody was talking about prop bets and stuff like that. And then some people started mentioning things that Usher, betting on Usher, what he was going to wear. Is he going to have sunglasses? What's his first song going to be? I was like, man, if you're betting on things like this, you really must have something wrong or maybe something right in your life, right?
Did you like Usher? Were you happy with him?
Yes, I was happy with him. Definitely.
Okay. Was it one of the better ones you've heard? Better halftime shows?
Yeah, I think I go back to that L.A. performance, the Dr. Dre, the Snoop Dogg performance. That was my favorite, I think.
Cade, your favorite?
I think that we were talking about this at my apartment, and I think the best halftime show I've ever seen was Katy Perry. When she was riding the lion across the thing. I think Katy Perry.
Dancing with the Sharks?
What do you guys think? Because I think the Katy Perry halftime show was pretty awesome.
What year was that? How many years ago was that for Katy Perry?
Oh my gosh, I don't even know.
It could be 8 to 10? It's been a while, hasn't it?
Let me look it up. Real quick.
Right.
Super Bowl 49.
There you go.
Okay, and this was 58, so it was 9 years ago.
Yeah.
Huh. All right.
I was young, but Katy Perry was it at the time.
She was it at the time. 10 years ago, absolutely.
Right. I can remember a lot of Katy Perry songs that songs spark up memories.
Yes.
I got memories with Katy Perry songs attached to them, and they're never going to leave.
That's good. There's nothing wrong with that. Cruz has been hanging out with us through the break. Hey, Cruz, how are you?
I'm doing okay, but I agree with Cade. Katy Perry is my favorite too.
So you like Katy Perry also? Okay, that's good.
Yeah. I got some quick comments. That rock punt, was really big, and I thought it might be the difference. But you never know what will happen. If he had made it, you don't know what will happen afterwards. But
True.
I want to make a comment about the commentator, Tony Romo. That guy's fantastic. He was telling us what play was going to be run. I mean, he's sharp. He knew what they were going to run. He even commentated on what the offense was going to run. And he's talking about the time management, all that. That was really interesting. He did a very good job, in my opinion.
So you are a Tony Romo fan.
Oh, yeah, I've been a Tony Romo fan for quite a while, since I first heard about him.
Yeah.
And but that was fantastic. I was trying to read the defense myself. I never beat him. He beat me every time, and he was accurate.
Cade, as a football player, what do you think about, how was Romo in the booth on Sunday for you?
Tony's always pretty good as far as explaining football from a quarterback's point of view, and I totally understand how to the average fan, him calling out things like when he first did it, it was cool, and then if I'm being completely candid, it kind of wore off after a while for me, and him trying to predict things.
Well, he was also wrong after a while. He was
exactly.
Good out of the gate that then he started predicting and missing, and it was getting a little weird.
Right, and then it's kind of one of those things if I sat here on the show and recorded myself with 100 hot takes, and then one of them hit and I posted and I'm I hate, guys, I told you it was coming, kind of thing. It kind of turned into one of those things, but he does a great job of explaining football as a quarterback and how it kind of works in the moment. But I think that other announcers do that really well too.
I think Greg Olson is probably the best one.
I think Greg Olson does a great, I really enjoy listening to Dan Orlovsky a lot of the times too. I think Dan Orlovsky gives great insight into, minds of kind of how football works from a quarterback's perspective and things like that. But I mean, maybe it's just, my choice of flavor or whatever, but I don't know. I've kind of moved off the Tony Romo train a little bit with just some of the ways that more verbally, just how it sounds on the ears and things like that. Maybe I've moved off of Tony Romo, but then again, he is great at his job, so I'm not going to be too critical.
Cruz, as long as you love Romo, that's all that matters.
Yeah. Hey, I got a quick comment about may make off the subject. Your theme song, Final Countdown.
Yes.
If you Google this, 220 músicos, that's a pretty good video. It's about 220 people performing it. I believe this happens in Russia. It's a pretty good song as it is, and these people do it justice. Yeah, 220 músicos. I think you'll enjoy that video.
We'll check that out. Thank you, Cruz. Appreciate the call. By the way, Final Countdown has been our wrap-up song forever, and truthfully, Final Countdown made a comeback after we started incorporating that into the show. So I'm not saying we had anything to do with it, but it is interesting to me how Final Countdown from Europe has in fact become such a popular tune in pop culture within the last 10 years or so.
You think so? You think it's just the last 10 years?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe a little longer. I don't know. Adrian, what do you think?
They've got a lot. Final Countdown has been in a lot of commercials. I'll say that. So
it has.
And maybe somebody's listening to us while they're, thinking of their next creative message to throw out there.
I mean, all you got to do is just put the show on the app, and you can hear it, free of charge. It's. I'm not saying that we had anything to do with Europe's success with Final Countdown, but we have had that song on for a long, long time.
You're helping promote it, right? Every listener counts. I'm sure Europe appreciates it.
Can't hurt. Can't hurt. Can
Right?
only help. So, all right. Hey, 2 hours down, 1 to go. We still have a lot more to talk about, so stay with us. Cade sticking around till 7 o'clock, and we look forward to hearing from you right here, 600 ESPN El Paso. Welcome back, everybody. Third and final hour underway. He's Adrian Broadus. I'm Steve Kaplowitz. Cade McConnell with us as well. Got a kick out of what just happened during the break. Sometimes, Adrian, the best stuff on this radio show happens during commercial breaks.
Very true. Very, very, very true. And that definitely was one of them.
I think our listeners would kill to have a chance to sometimes get into the studio during the breaks and hear what's said. And well, in this particular situation, Cade phoned a friend, which happened to be a relative of his, who did a terrific impersonation of one very popular football announcer and gave us all a good laugh out here in the studio. It's good stuff.
Here's the thing: is admittedly, like, we know this. Bo is like the character of the family. Like, he has the better impersonations. Like, he can sing better than anybody in the family. Like, all that type of stuff. Like, all that goes straight to Bo. But like, he is not as much of the talker. Like, he wouldn't want to get on the show and like talk as much as he'd like to go and argue. But he has all the other talents, kind of thing. But here, I told them this. Like, we need to have Bo on at some point. We need to have him either in studio or call in, because he's the personality that somebody needs to hear at some point.
How often has he come to El Paso?
Oh, he's probably come 3 or 4 times now. I mean, it's a little.
All right.
It's a little.
Only?
Well, yeah. Oh, well. I need to double check that, but yeah, about 3 or 4 times.
But where does he live?
Well, he lives in Utah right now, Salt Lake City.
That's a tough trip.
Yeah, that's a tough trip.
Yeah, it's just there's a couple different factors, right? I mean, he's got school a lot of the time, and then obviously it's not cheap to get down here, but he also has work. Those kind of things. But when he has come down here, he has a great time. All the guys on the team enjoy being around him too. My friends are his friends, kind of thing. It's fun.
Gotcha. Well, listen, Bo made us laugh, which is really cool. We like that as well. By the way, give me your thoughts on this, okay? Because this is interesting. This just happened during the show today, so this is new. The College Football Playoff Board of Managers expected to vote in 1 week, a week from today, on a model that would include the 5 highest-ranked conference champions and the next 7 highest-ranked teams in the 12-team playoff this fall. Now, this is a format change that could finally get the unanimous backing if the Pac-12 agrees to it, which, by the way, is Washington State and Oregon State. That's right. The Pac-12, so that's like 2 teams. They got to decide what they're going to do. So they've been the holdout in this process. They want the time to sort through the legal issues, discuss future CFP revenue with the board. Now, Washington State President Kirk Schultz, who represents the conference on the board, said, quote, the expectation is to hold a vote, and that's what he wants to do. Now, the 5+7 model is interesting, but once again, my question is that going to leave out any particular group of 5 schools? Because that's my biggest question, is if you're dealing with the 5 conference champions and the next 7 schools after that, could we possibly see something that just completely ignores a group of 5 school?
Right.
Which, that's the question. See, what the Pac-12 is considering for its future is they call this a reverse merger with the Mountain West, meaning they would add all the teams from that league into the Pac-12 without any exit fee. So if that was to happen, he's not sure how the CFP would view the league, which basically is a group of 5 conference with a Power 5 label. They don't know how that's going to work.
Right. I mean, and for the listeners listening out there, right, the previous format that they were talking about was all of the conference champions of the 5 big conference, the Big 5.
Yep.
And then, or the Power 5, and then it was the highest ranked group of 5 school, right? Mm-hmm. Had the automatic bid. So now with this format, that group of 5 school has a higher chance of being left out, or a lot higher of a chance of getting left out.
Well, you got to figure, because once again, you're dealing with the next 7 highest ranked teams in the 12-team playoff.
So you're I feel like you're guaranteed to leave out a group of 5 school at that point.
So if we just base it on the end of the season, right, and we look at the final rankings, and I can't even let me see I'm trying to find the last bowl championship poll, which I don't have. All I have is the final AP and coaches and all that. But if you look at that, if you look at those rankings, the best group of 5 school in those rankings was
Liberty, right?
Liberty at 25.
That's my point. I mean,
yeah,
there's years with exceptions where a group of 5 schools have potentially been ranked higher, but that's I feel like more few and far between. And if you take a season like last year where Liberty was a great team, now did they get blown out by Oregon? Yeah, I understand that, but they were a great team and the best group of 5 school in the nation last year, and they're 25. I mean, that's a considerable amount to break up into that arguably top 12 ranking, top 15.
Well, but here's the question, okay? The question is that if they go 5 power conferences, right now there's 4.
Right.
So I guess that would assume that the 5th would end up being the Mountain West, because that's the question. Because if you're going Pac-12 and they're kind of aligning themselves with the Mountain West, would they get that last spot as an automatic, which seems like such a dud?
I don't think. I mean, this right here, Steve, feels like it was kind of something that they were putting together last minute while everybody's on the table. And oh, by the way, hey, don't forget about us over here on the West Coast. Hey, oh, by the way, don't forget about the Pac-2 and the Mountain West. We want to be a Power 5. We want all this kind of stuff, and I don't know how realistic any of that is.
I'm with you on that one. I just don't understand. So here's my thoughts. Okay, what I would do is I would basically say that the 5th conference should be the highest ranked group of 5 school to go with the other 4. That makes the most sense.
That makes the most sense to me, too. But it also, I'm not going to open this can of worms right now.
Now, it does say the 5 highest ranked conference champions. I'm assuming that group of 5 is in that mix.
Yeah, I would
because
assume
you would
so.
have the 4 you would have the 4 Power 5s, and then the 5th would be the highest ranked group of 5. That's how I see that, because really what you've done is you've taken the Pac-12 and turned it into a league that is essentially 2 schools and a group of 5. So that's how I would think. I would think that you would have the Power 5, you would have the Pac-12 with the Mountain West as a group of 5, and then all the other group of 5s, and see who gets the highest spot. That would make the most sense to me.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense to me. I'm on board with that one.
So if Washington State ends up being 11-1, and then you talk about Liberty going 12-0, that's where it starts to get a little dicey, right? Who gets in, And
who's ranked higher?
Exactly.
I mean, is Washington State ranked higher than Liberty? Then you go from there.
I think that's fair, because I think that if you play Washington State against Liberty, it's a closer outcome. I don't think it's like playing Liberty against Oregon last year. I don't think that's your turnout.
Point is this: we know that the Pac-12 is done. I mean, if you want to call yourself the Pac-12, be my guest. If you're Washington State and Oregon State, do I feel bad that they're the last 2 standing? Absolutely. Do they deserve to be a Power 5 school? Heck no, not even close. If you absorb the Mountain West, you're just a group of 5 with a new name.
Yeah, I mean, it raises a lot of different questions, and like I was about to say earlier, I'm not going to open this can of worms, but this is why I cannot stand all the realignment. I don't think that it's good for a whole lot. And I think that it makes all this stuff a lot more complicated and makes a lot less sense when you start talking about playoffs and rankings and everything else.
Interesting thing, Steve, just to mention real quick regarding the Pac-12 or the Pac-2, whatever. This was actually reported earlier today. The 10 schools that are leaving will likely still play in the Pac-12 affiliated bowls the next 2 years, and not the bowls that are tied to their new leagues, which is actually very relevant for the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl right there.
Say that again, please.
Yeah, so what I'm saying here is the 10 schools that are leaving the Pac-12, right? The 10 who are, half of them are going to the Big 10, half of them are going to the Big 12. Those schools will still play in bowl games that are tied into the Pac-12 for 2 more years.
Does that mean that for the next 2 seasons, they are the 5th school?
That's a good question. That has not been clear.
Because that would be strange, too. I would think that any team that goes to the Big 12 and the Big 10, even if they're considered Pac-12 as far as bowl games go, they are still in the Big 10 and in the Big 12, and that 5th spot should not go to a Pac. I mean, how
that's
can
right.
you?
That's
you
exactly
can't
right.
possibly do that, because what that means is you're giving the Big 10 or the Big 12 a chance to have an extra school, which you can't do.
What you're saying right there is exactly right. It's still going to be those 4. It's not going to count as a second one. Like, let's say Oregon, for example, goes 10-2, and it's like, oh, Oregon, you get that last playoff spot because you were previously in the Pac-12. No, that doesn't count.
So what you're saying is, when it comes to bowl games for these next 2 seasons, even though they're in the Big Big Ten, and even though they're in the Big 12, they will be considered Pac-12. What if they win their conference? Then what?
Then they're probably going to be the at-large bid and the college football playoff bid for their respective league. Now, let's talk about like a 7-6 Arizona. Are they eligible for the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl in this scenario? Yes.
Okay, so outside of the top spots that could end up in a New Year's 6 or a potential playoff, then they get to still be part of the Pac-12.
Correct.
For the sake of argument for these 2 seasons.
And the Pac-12 bowls, the only ones that are linked right now, Alamo, Las Vegas, Holiday, Sun Bowl, LA, and Independence. Those are the ones right now.
What is that, about 6?
6.
Okay, interesting. All right. So when did they decide that?
So this was reported earlier today by our guy Brett McMurphy, and so yeah, that's
fresh news.
That's fresh news, yeah.
So I guess the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl does not have to negotiate with another conference. They will keep what was the Pac-12 for 2 more seasons.
Sure, and if they want to start negotiating behind closed doors, I think that would actually be the better case, right? Because if you actually have those negotiations happen, what if it's like those Pac-12 schools or the Big 12, and then you seamlessly translate into partnering up with the Big 12 if you're the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl? Like, that's how I see this partnership really working.
That is interesting. Well, I'll tell you what. So this is, again, if they're not in the playoffs. So,
Right.
we're not even talking, I guess the New Year's games are now considered the expanded playoff. Probably that's the way they'll end up doing it. So, all right. So there are your games. I guess that solves the issues for the bowl games around here. At least we now know that the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl will still feature either a current or a former Pac-12 school.
Yeah.
And I'm not limiting it to them expanding it. So if the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl came out like tomorrow and said, hey, we're still going to keep ties with the previous Pac-12 schools, but we also want to throw out the Big 12. Like, they are also an option.
What happens with Oregon State and Washington State if they end up like having terrific seasons going through the Mountain West? How do you decide to choose them versus one of these other former Pac-12 schools that are playing in the Big 10 and the Big 12?
Yeah, or what if like San Diego State's like 9-3, and the Sun Bowl really wants San Diego State or something?
But
Do
they're
qualify?
they're Mountain West.
Exactly, but that's where things get dicey, and that's where things get very, very confusing. And so, to your point, I still think there's a lot of work to do on this.
I feel like 24 and 25 will still be the way it's been. 26 on, that's when everything changes.
Right. I have a question. If the Pac-12 is adopting the Mountain West schools, are they all just becoming the Pac-12? I
think in 2 years they will. I feel like based on this bowl situation, this bowl scenario, that would possibly be the case starting in 2026.
So then what happens to the Mountain West Conference?
It goes away.
It goes away.
It dissolves.
So it's not getting filled.
I don't think so.
Because then you have to start asking, there's, like I remember when all these first realignment talks started happening, there was like, okay, well, if the Pac-12 takes on all these new teams and then the Mountain West has all these voids in them, and if we as UTEP have good seasons of the next couple seasons, like, can we go to the Mountain West?
Right.
Or are we staying in Conference USA? Is it going to look different? Are there going to be way more FBS teams now because there's, bigger conferences and our team's going to move up? And I don't have any answers for you, Steve.
I don't either. All I know is if I was UTEP, I would try to cherry pick from the American Athletic, the Mountain West, Conference USA, build a kick-ass new league, and make this something that everybody wants to be a part of and start your own league.
That's our ticket, Steve. That's what we're going to do.
I like that. Yeah, good luck. We'll see how that goes. What do you think, Age? You think we can make that happen?
No, but I like it. I like the thought. UTEP needs to get better in order for them to be in this conversation. Everybody else will be invited except for UTEP in that case.
Yeah, that's usually
they'll
the way
invite Kennesaw State and Delaware first.
Whoa. Okay, Adrian's taking shots from back there.
From
yeah.
Adrian.
Adrian's taking shots.
I forgot
from
we have
back
a
there.
UTEP student athlete here.
No,
true.
you didn't forget a single thing.
17 pass. Let's go to Charlie 1 and get ourselves this traffic update. Around this year, it's softball. It's time. It's time to finally get that program where it needs to be, and that's going in the right direction.
Yeah, and for TJ Hubbard, this has got to be the year, really. I mean, this has got to be the winning season. Alberto Reta was telling us that he likes their arms. He was on the ESPN Plus broadcast all weekend long, calling the action. So he said he likes some of their pitching that they've got this year, and that's where it starts, right? I mean, you know better than anyone, Steve, that in softball, it really matters what kind of staff that you have out there, your starters, your pitching, all your bullpen, what you have out there for that, because hitters will come, but pitching, that's a little tougher to find.
Look, they're 4-1 right now, okay? So here's what they've done. Let's look at this. They beat Western Michigan 5-1, then they beat Abilene Christian 4-1. Then they got beat the next day from Western Michigan 10-0 in 5. Okay, they got run ruled. They beat Monmouth 7-4, and they beat Abilene Christian 12-0. So after one bad clunker, they've had good games from their starters. Now, granted, Western Michigan, Abilene Christian, Monmouth, this is not Conference USA we're talking about. This is early season competition is what it is. And I understand that, and I'm fine with that. But, in the past, they usually only had one good starter. And this was the Dr. Diana Natalicio Memorial Tournament presented by the Holiday Inn West Sunland Park. So excited about that. But here's your litmus test, okay? They host New Mexico tomorrow on Valentine's Day in a doubleheader, 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock at Helen of Troy Softball Complex. That'll give us a better indication, because New Mexico and UTEP are similar in terms of programs. That'll give us a better indication of what we should look forward to this season.
Yeah, I feel like, again, this is the season for UTEP softball. If you ever looked at a season, it's now. TJ Hubbard's had his time to recruit the right team that he wants around him. I mean, he had the challenges of the pandemic right when he was hired, so this is really that class. You talk about juniors, seniors right there. This is the group right here that needs to get it done. So it's a good start, albeit against opponents that you expect to beat. So let's see what they could do against a team who's probably on their level, maybe a little better.
Yeah, speaking from a fan perspective, and the football team who's made it a point to go out and try and support as many sports as we can right now in our off season, they've had a good attendance at the past couple of games. They've been fun to watch. Shout out to Ashlyn Allen, who's one of my really good friends, plays center field. She had a home run in one of the recent games, and one of the main things is from last season was just the pitching staff and having people that could come in there and control games so that when the batters do put up points, that you get wins on the scorecard. And now that they have a pitching staff and I think that they can do some really good things this year. It's going to be exciting for those that have not been out to a softball game. It's a lot of fun, and they've had good attendance. It's been a great atmosphere. I'm excited to see what happens with them this year.
Let's talk for a minute about student athletes and the camaraderie between all of you. I always wonder about that because I feel like a lot of the student athletes get to know each other. You're all very supportive. You went to the basketball game. You go to a lot of games. You go to the softball games. They go watch you play. It seems like really everybody has each other's back at this school.
Yeah, I think that happens 100%. And one of the things that helps that out a lot, there's a few sports that are, kind of exempt from this a little bit because they have their own facilities and things like that. But in the LKD, the training room, is kind of that one place, and the weight room too, but where everybody uses that weight room and that training room. My basketball is a little bit different, but they're in there a decent amount and whatnot. But that's kind of where you get to congregate, and that's kind of the locker room type of camaraderie that people talk about, where it's not formally meeting someone here or seeing someone there. It's just kind of hey, we're hanging out in the training room, we're taking care of our bodies and this, that, whatever, and then you start kind of shooting it with the person that's on the softball team or the track team or whatever, and the next thing you know, you're like, oh, I had a 20-30 minute conversation with them. I enjoy them. I know them as a person. And then when you go out and you get to watch them, you have a different sense of support for them because there's a little bit more of a person behind the player.
Do you feel like what could improve? Because that's the only place to congregate, you're saying, for the LKD. Is it welcome week, maybe more events around that? Is it the dorms, having more kind of open house or, hey, free lunch or, free dinner and stuff like that? Let's have all the student athletes come out and meet each other. What ways can this improve? Because I think that's actually a really good thing for athletes to hang out with each other.
Yeah, I think I can't understate how much I think it's important for athletes to hang out across all different sports sports because, it's a lot more fun than, sometimes athletes make it out to be. Like, I enjoy going and watching the softball games, the volleyball games, the tennis matches, all the basketball games. Like, all those things are really exciting and fun for just people who are athletes and like to have sports. But to answer your question, Adrian, I think like some events or things that are fun to do, whether it's just, like going out and eating, it doesn't have to be forced in like some super artificial, meet and greet kind of thing, but just getting all the athletes in the same area is something that's really cool because it's different. Like, you see the people on your team every day, all the time, but it's cool knowing that you're like, hey, that's the basketball player that's out there that, like I talked to this week and they have 26 points right now. And and how cool is that? I know them kind of thing. And it's cool to have that bond within the building. So definitely some events, and it's also a personal thing, like going out of your way in order just to go talk somebody, make a friendship, those kind of things that can go a long way in the sports world.
And you like athletes. I mean, that's just what it comes down to. I mean, you like sports, you enjoy being around athletes. I mean, when you have downtime and it's not much between everything you're doing now, learning a whole new system, your schoolwork, if you can get a chance to go watch a game, I mean, that's something you enjoy doing. Plus, you're a student, so you get free admission into anything you want to watch.
Yeah, and like I said, like the atmospheres at some of the games, like I didn't know anything about going and watching tennis matches until some of the football players went and we watched them kind of thing. Like, yeah, I've watched tennis on TV and I've gone, but I can't tell you how many tennis matches I've ever gone to watch. But like when you know the people that are playing and you can go and support, like it adds a whole different dimension to it. And then that's part of the thing that like I've come on here and kind of done with you guys. Like, yes, I want to do sports broadcasting and radio and things like that, and that's like what I want to do for my career. But I also think it's just cool to be an athlete, come on here and kind of give inside access to that. Like, I think as the course over the semester, like I'd love to bring in more athletes from different sports to come in and just talk. So that way some of the people that listen can kind of just get to know more of the person that's kind of behind out on the court or field.
Do you feel like the transfer portal hurts the friendship making process with all these different sports and student athletes?
I do, and it's more than just yes, but my answer is yes in the sense that like it's no different than having a friend, that you've had your entire life and then a friend that you've met recently. Like, you could still have great relationships with people that you've met more recently, but like the guys that I grew up playing peewee football with and then somehow we were still on the same high school team. I have a friend, his name's Giovanni De Leon. Shout out Gio. I was on 8th grade and 7th grade Pop Warner with him, and then we played on every single high school team together, and then we went to JUCO together, and it was like we have played on the same football team for so long, like there's no way we don't have a good relationship and things like that. And then when you just put that into perspective, like there's a lot of guys on this new football team that are new, and I like a lot of them, like they're great dudes, but I don't know them as well yet. So you kind of got to restart that process, and you got to get to know them again, and then you eventually just on a sports team you end up becoming close. Like there's always going to be camaraderie. But the transfer portal does hurt that a little bit because instead of having the guys that you've stuck it out with for years, you may have a guy that you're sticking it out with for a year.
Makes sense. All right, final 30 minutes next, right after Adrian and this Sports Center update. It's bottom of the hour now as we continue. By the way, found out this yesterday. So UTEP is going to be throwing out those Texas Western throwback basketball jerseys. They're coming to the bookstore possibly this week. People are excited about that. As a student athlete, how much do you look forward to your bookstore carrying merch that fans can buy and show up to games wearing, whether it's a replica jersey, other colors? For you as a student athlete, how big a deal is it to know that your school has quality merch for fans to get and own?
It's a really big deal because I mean, that's the type of stuff that, like, when you were a little kid, you know what I mean? You wore somebody else's jersey, and then to see somebody else, like, in your jersey, you're wearing your merch or doing something like that, and, like, knowing that they're supporting you, especially when it's somebody that maybe you don't directly know or that you've only met once or something like that, and then you see somebody that, like, is a fan of you enough to go out and buy something that has your name or your number on it and get that support like that, that's a really big deal. And it's even better when someone actually, like, takes the time after a football game to, like, call you out and be like, hey, like, and, you know, point to their shirt or something. You get to go take a picture with them. Like, those little things mean just as much for the athlete, if not more, than it does for the fan. I promise you that.
And the fans, though, also appreciate the fact that they can actually wear something that they see during game times. I mean, those Texas Western unis they wore Saturday were sweet. And if you've got a replica jersey that looks exactly like it, other than the Adidas mark, I mean, fans are going to eat that stuff up.
100%. I know I love to wear the gear. Like, I'm never the guy that like that shows up and stuff, like not supporting in colors or gear or everything else. Like, I'm a total gear guy. If I could show up like head to toe in a basketball uniform to a game, then sign me up.
Are you bigger wearing jerseys that have stitched numbers and letters, or do you like they almost look like they're heat pressed or ironed on?
It's like the tackle twill numbers that are sewn on. I'm a huge tackle twill guy. I remember like growing up in the baseball, like in youth baseball and stuff. Like, I remember my dad, who would coach all the teams, like he had a sportswear guy that did his school uniforms for PE, but all of our uniforms were tackle twill, and like everybody else's was pressed on or whatever else. We always look super official, but it's the little details like that like the nicer sewn on stuff, always going to be better than the heat press stuff.
That's what I figured. Let's go back to the phones right now. Oh, we lost Fernie. Shoot, I wanted to bring Fernie on, and I know you have some good questions. So, Fernie, if you're listening, call us back. We'll get you up and bring you on the program, because it sounds like you had a couple of good topics to talk about between UTEP and Sunday's big one, Super Bowl 58. 505-6009. That is our telephone number as we continue here on Sports Talk. If there was one UTEP clothing item that you like, it's your number one thing that you feel like fans would just completely love, like, what's your go-to? Is it a hoodie? Is it a replica jersey? Is it something else? Like, what is your favorite piece of UTEP merch to wear that you think fans would just love if they could own it too?
Okay, so I'll give you a couple answers because it's hard to choose just one. But like something to wear to a game, like I love wearing football jerseys. I have a Tom Brady jersey, I have a Lamar Jackson jersey, I have a Justin Herbert jersey, and like I love wearing those on game day. I think it's awesome.
Okay.
So that's probably my number one as far as like games go. Like I think a football jersey is awesome, especially like a really nice one that looks good. But I will say, like, our bookstore is elite. Like, yeah, I love it. And I went in there right before I left for break, before winter break, and I got a camo hoodie, like the military edition hoodie. It is the warmest, best hoodie I have in my entire closet right now. And then I got like a all-white quarter zip from the bookstore that was just an Adidas one that said UTEP on it, and I love it. I wear them like way too much. There's probably every time people see me, I'm probably wearing one of those two things, but it's awesome. Like,
you've got your favorites.
Yeah, I have my favorites, and like they're too versatile. You know, like if I want to like still look clean, but like I'm not going to wear a collared shirt or something like that. Like I'm going to put on the UTEP white quarter zip, like it looks clean enough. Or if I want to be warm, I'm going to wear that camo hoodie. I have my things.
So we took the UTEP black. We actually owned, Adrian and I. We each had a black quarter zip. We ended up getting the logo on that. We got them embroidered. Took them to Vegas, and then Adrian hit the Columbia store, and we got these navy blue fleece quarter zips that we also embroidered out. Wore them that week, and it was fantastic. Could not have been a better look over at Radio Row.
I love it. You know what I really could use that I don't have? It's crazy, but they never issued them to us in this past year because it wasn't part of our travel package or anything, is a UTEP polo. I still do not have a UTEP polo.
Really?
They're full of them in the bookstore, but I haven't gone and made the purchase, maybe just in hopes that, you know, football is going to give us a polo.
So you're telling me that so in the 2 years you've been at UTEP, none of the players have ever been not want to say awarded, but issued is the best way to put it.
Right.
Issued a UTEP polo.
Not in the 22 or 23 season. In 21, I believe they did. I don't know if it was. I don't think it was part of the New Mexico Bowl like gear package, but I know that the year before me, I'm pretty sure everybody had polos.
Yeah, because I'm thinking Gavin Hardison and Praise Meule. Like those two guys have a UTEP polo, but that's unfair that you don't. Let me ask you this, Cade. What's your favorite jersey you own or you've ever owned?
As far as like just across sports, across the board.
All sports.
Wow, that's such a good question. I honestly think. Okay, I'll give you two. I'll give you two because it's hard to pick one. I have a all-white Angels jersey that I have worn for I can't tell you how long. I think I stole it out of Dad's closet way back when. But it's an all-white Angels jersey. I don't think there's a number on the back. If
the logo is white, the actual Angels logo is white,
no,
that's
like
red?
It's their home jerseys.
Got it.
Away. Away.
Oh, home.
No, home.
Home is always white in baseball. Away is the gray or
right.
the other colors.
Right.
Okay.
I always have to flop that in my head with football. But, it's the white jersey with the red lettering.
Yep.
There's no number on the back. I wish it was a Jared Weaver jersey. That's my favorite pitcher of all time right there.
Oh, I love Jared Weaver.
Yeah, I love Jared Weaver too. Long Beach State alum. My hometown, just Angels. It's just he's the best. But that's like my childhood favorite jersey. And then for the last 5 years, I've had Lamar Jackson on my fantasy team, and I remember my girlfriend had gotten me a Lamar Jackson jersey, and I love that Lamar Jackson jersey. It's the black one. It's the black Ravens jersey. I feel like I would love a white or a purple one too, but those are my two go-tos for sure.
I like the fact that for you, your jerseys are about your favorite players, not necessarily about a favorite team.
Correct, because I'm yes, the Angels are my team that I've been a fan of the longest, but like I have a Justin Herbert jersey, and I love that jersey, and the Chargers are my team the whole way. But like I feel like when you're wearing the jersey, it's also about like the person you're watching.
Yeah.
That's fair.
It's so interesting because I have a bunch of Jet jerseys because I'm a Jets fan. The only jersey in the NFL that I own other than a Jets jersey is a white Aaron Jones 33 that I got right after he came into the NFL.
I want to expand my jersey collection. We should both do the same thing, Steve. You need to expand too. I know it's tough, but we got to do it.
You know what the worst part is, though, is that if fans want to own and wear like a UTEP gamer, it is the tightest fitting jersey of all time. Like, you can't wear it out because it's designed to be tight with shoulder pads, and even if you're just wearing it, it's not comfortable. It's not fun.
No. Wait, those aren't the ones that you buy in the bookstore.
No.
Right?
I'm talking about the gamers. Like, if you were to say to somebody, hey, I want to give you my gamer jersey, you're not wearing it. And if you're wearing it, it's not going to be a comfortable experience.
No. You better wear it like over like a hoodie when it's cold or something like that, so that way you can like kind of tuck it up and stuff, because it has the elastic to make sure that it's not flopping around everywhere.
That's right.
Like that. Like no, like jerseys are not comfortable to wear if they're not on shoulder pads, and even if they're on shoulder pads, they're not comfortable a lot of the time. But
no, it's true. It's designed so that people can't grab it and bring you down. It's supposed to try to be as form-fitting as it's going to get.
Right, exactly. And then they even tape jerseys onto the pads to make sure they don't move around too much when they're grabbing and get all out of sorts. So
yeah. That's true. Now, do your jerseys as a quarterback, are your sleeves more loose than the other team or the other players where the jersey for the sleeves are like super tight and fit right on their arms?
So I wish that I know other schools may do it. I don't think we do that here as far as tailoring like the jersey fit to the quarterback. If I could, I would wear it how like Kyler Murray and Lamar and a lot of the guys in the NFL wear, where it has like the loose elastic on the arm, so it's not grabbing onto it and it's not rubbing like when you're throwing.
Yes.
It still covers the shoulder pad and stuff, but those guys like jerseys are like tailor fit to them. I always have wanted to like at least know what that feels like, because sometimes like there's jerseys that just don't fit right, or they're not perfect, and you kind of just live with it. But like if I could, I would have no elastic on the arms.
All right, I hope the Adidas rep for El Paso is listening, and if you are, please make sure that when you come to UTEP for your jerseys this season, you make sure that we could try to give Cade more of a custom fit jersey for his throwing arm,
and
please.
a polo.
While you're at it, yes, please bring him the polo too.
That would be so cool. That would be really cool.
All right, when we come back, final countdown. We're going to wrap this one up, so stay with us. Sports Talk continues, 600 ESPN El Paso.